G'day, Starlo here. I get a lot of questions about my boat. So I thought I'd give you a bit of a walk around and show it to you because it's coming up to its 9th birthday, and that's the longest I've ever owned a single boat rig. For those of you who don't know, it's a Beastmaster Snubby Pro, a 5-metre open fiberglass boat. They're built by Robbie Ferguson in southeastern Queensland, and Robbie's been largely a one-man show across his career of boat building, so he doesn't build them fast, he builds them good. I believe the current waiting list for one of Robbie's boats is at least 2 years, so if you're keen to get one of these, you want to get your name on the list pretty quickly. But there are other boats that will do the same kind of job. Look, it's a cliche, but it's true nonetheless, that all boats are a compromise, and this one's no different. But the compromise fits what Joe and I mostly do in our fishing these days. Anyway, let's have a bit of a look around the boat and I'll show you a few of its features. As you'll see, we went for tiller steer on our rig. Robbie builds some beautiful centre and side consoles as well, but we went for the tiller steer because it meant we got the boat a little bit quicker when we first ordered it. It was a little bit cheaper, and you know what? I really like it. It just opens up the boat, gives us so much room up here that we can use for storage, for all kinds of things, just good fishing space. Sure, 70 horsepower Yamaha is a fairly heavy motor for tiller steer. I don't have any problems with it, but Joe does find it a bit heavy and a bit hard on her shoulder after a big day on the water. So starting at the stern of the boat, as I said, we went for a tiller steer option with the 70 horsepower 4-stroke Yamaha. I absolutely love my Yamahas, and this one has been faultless, fantastic motor. And up here above it, we've got a poling platform. Now, poling is something that doesn't get done a lot of in Australia. It works really, really well for shallow water fishing, but it's not really an option that suits us all that much. It's a guided fishing option. You need someone up there on the platform poling and someone else fishing up in the bow. The person poling can't really fish. What I mostly use this for is getting up on it when I want to see a long way. You can really look down into the water. It's fantastic for chucking surface lures, for whiting in the summer. You can get that bit further distance and see what's happening. I really enjoy it for that. I also put a bait cutting board up there when we go offshore bait fishing, and it's a really handy place to cut your bait. There are 4 rod holders in it, as you can see, and they're just extensions of the graphite posts that hold the poling platform. So yeah, I really like it. We do use it, but not perhaps the way that the original designers, the American designers of poling platforms intended it. Well, not very often anyway. All right, coming forward, we've got a fairly big outboard well. Now, the thing about this boat is that you can run it semi-wet or dry. So I can leave the big bungs out of the outboard well at the back and the smaller bungs out of the internal cockpit. And at rest, with a couple of people down the back, you'll end up with a couple of centimetres of water on the floor of the boat. As soon as you drive off, it drains straight out. Really good if you're needing to clean up tuna blood or whatever that's on the floor of the boat. You can run it that way. Most of the time I put the big bungs in and run it as a dry boat, but it's really good to have that option. That self-draining capability is fantastic. And the underfloor area is huge and sealed, so you're not going to sink. Even if this boat was full of water, it would still float because of that airspace underneath. All right, coming forward from the motor, we've got a rather generous live well. This extends up both ways. I've had fish to over 90 centimetres in there and they can straighten out. You've got flow-through circulation. We mostly just use it to keep fish in there while we're getting the cameras ready to take a photo or whatever. But I've kept 5, 6, 8 brim in there, big brim, all day with the circulating pump going. And they're healthier when you get them out than when you put them in a lot of times. There are relatively small storage compartments down here in the stern quarters. This one houses the cranking battery for the motor, and that's the battery that also runs the sounders and other electronics apart from the bow mounted electric motor. As you can see, I've got a bit of other stuff in there, spare props for the electric, fuel hose and so forth. And on the other side is a similar compartment, and in there is all the wiring loom set up and so on. And you can stow a little bit of gear in there if you want to as well. And of course, we've got the isolator switch for the house battery down here in the corner. Coming forward, we've got this centrally mounted chair. This is where obviously a centre console would have gone if we'd gone for that option. Jo calls this her throne. It's a great spot to sit if you've got 3 on board. Normally sit 1 in each stern quarter and 1 here on this seat, and it's a very comfortable way to travel. But I also do a lot of driving standing up, hanging onto this with my hand on the throttle. It's a really comfortable way to travel, and it gives you great visibility, especially if you're in shallower water. So we like the seat. We could have done without it, would have opened up even more space, but it's really, really handy. I often have my camera case sitting on it, and down underneath is a platform that I normally have a storage box on with all kinds of bits and pieces that I'm using on a regular basis sitting on here. I've taken it all out today to give you a really clean look at the boat. There's rod holders here and here. The nav lights are on the side of the seat frame, and down here we've got an inspection port where you can actually access that sealed hull underneath, make sure there's no water getting in there, and also get to the bases of this seat if you needed to remove it, and get to any wiring that goes to the navigation lights and so forth. This is the little instrument console here. We've got the Yamaha's dedicated screen that shows you the revs, the fuel you're using, so forth. And there's all our switches down the side there. Lowrance HDS 9 Live sitting up here. We've had this for as long as we've had the boat. We've got 2 of them actually. We have 1 here and 1 up on the bow usually, but I've got something new up on the bow and I'll show you that in a second. Now these are interesting. I've actually fitted one of these M&E tackle vinyl protectors. It's really handy, keeps any water off the back of the unit, stops it getting into the connections and the wiring, and it also provides great shade on the screen to make it easier to see in direct sunlight. I really like these. M&E Tackle, they're an Australian company, they make really good stuff, and if you use my link down below in the description, you'll get a discount on these. I love it. Okay, rod storage. You can see how that works. I've just put 1 rod in this morning to show you. But there's storage space on this side with tubes that go well forward into the forward compartment that I'll show you in a minute. And the same on this side. On this side, they're longer. I've put 10.5 foot full rigged fly rods in there. So quite a long storage. Certainly no problems at all with your 7, 8, 9 foot rods. On this side, it's a little bit shorter because of the console, but you can still get rods up to about 7.5, 7'9" into that side. And even though there's only 2 tubes, I often store 2 rods in each, so 4 per side. That's 8 outfits. That's plenty for us. All right, now moving up to the business end of the boat, where we spend most of our time when we're actually fishing. And as you'll see, there's a lovely big flat casting deck up here. Plenty of room for 2 anglers to stand there and cast. We've often had 3 if they know what they're doing. Lots and lots of space. It's flat, it's stable, it's just a wonderful thing to fish off. We had sea deck originally and we got some damage done to it, so we got it replaced. I can't actually remember what the name of this material is, but it was put on by Marine Apply in Bomaderry near Nowra on the south coast of New South Wales. They did a fantastic job. Up the bow there you can see our motor guide. We've owned 3 motor guides across that period. We had issues with the very first one. It corroded really quickly. They had a bad batch. Mercury Marine replaced it, no questions asked, which was great. We ran an XI5 for a few years, and then we actually switched over to the cheaper version, the XI3, and we've had a great run out of that. It's just started playing up a little bit in the last couple of weeks. It's not registering signals from the remote control. I've had to go back to the foot control, which I don't like all that much. But anyway, it's all a bit academic because Motor Guide have folded. They're not made anymore. It's a real shame because most of the electrics these days are really expensive and really complex, and I'm going to have to go for one of those, saving up for that at the moment. But the Motor Guide was affordable, good, worked, did everything we wanted it to. I'm a bit sad that they're not around any longer. Now, the other interesting thing that we've just added up the front is a Lowrance Eagle Eye 9. Now, this is the poor man's live scope, if you like. They're a forward-facing sonar, but just with a single, very narrow beam. They don't offer the same kind of views that you see from the top-end stuff, but they also don't cost you $10,000 for the whole setup with the poles and everything else. This is like a $1,400 unit. I've mounted the transducer on the motor. I've only just put it on, which is why all the cable is coiled up there. I'm still getting everything working. I've only had it for a few days, so I'll tell you more about that as we start to use it. I was a bit ambivalent about the whole live scoping, forward-facing sonar thing. I reckon I can live without it, but I want to give one of these cheaper units a run and just see how well they work. And if I don't like it, I'll take it off and put the HDS 9 Live back up there with its M&E tackle cover, and we'll go back to that. But I thought I should give this a run because I know a lot of people are getting into them, and it is an affordable way to get into that forward-facing sonar. All right, let's have a look at the storage under the front deck. So, lift up the big hatch on gas struts, and there is a lot of room in here. I've just got a life jacket and my reflector for filming and a fire extinguisher in there at the moment. But I normally have a big black box in here full of all sorts of stuff that I need, plus all my safety gear and first aid kits and everything else. And there's something very exciting right up in the front there. And that's a new addition just in the last, well, few days actually. It's a green marine lithium 80 amp hour lithium battery, and it is powering only the bow mounted electric motor. And the reason I didn't get a bigger unit and power everything off it, including the sounders and so forth, is that the motor guide is a brushed electric motor, not one of the new brushless models. And because of that, it can cause interference to the sounder readouts if you run the sounders off the same battery as you're running the motor. I got all that great advice from Stephen at Green Marine Lithium. Fantastic Australian company to work with. Their stuff is fully safety compliant. You know, like a lot of other people, I had my doubts about going lithium. You see all this stuff about fires and explosions and things, but seriously, I did my homework and I found Green Marine Lithium in Queensland, and they've got a terrific track record. They're really good to deal with, and I got the battery through them. I'll put links down below if you're interested. It is amazing. I had a lead crystal battery in here before, lasted for nearly 9 years. It was a great battery, but massive, physically very large, over 41 kilos in weight. That's well over 90 pounds. This thing is 8 kilos, believe it or not. And although it says 80 amp hours, it's actually got the output similar to the 120 amp hour lead crystal that I had in before. It's got its own dedicated charger up in there, circuit breakers. I got it all fitted up by Maruya Auto Electrics down here on the south coast where I live. They did a fantastic job, nice neat wiring. I love this thing. You can whip your mobile phone out and use the app and actually check the status of the battery at any given moment. The charger is super fast. I can't believe how quickly it recharges the battery, and the life out of that battery is amazing. You don't get that gradual sort of fade off that you seem to with more conventional batteries. So far I'm extremely impressed with the Green Marine Lithium battery. I'll be telling you a fair bit more about that in coming months as well. And that's about it. Not much else to tell you about. Let's go for a bit of a run and I'll talk about the performance of the boat. Okay, so here we are out on the water, and the first thing I always do, whether I'm fishing on my own or with other people, is put the safety lanyard on my wrist when I'm driving the motor. If I happen to get thrown out of the boat, if we hit something, if I fell over into the boat or whatever, it would stop the motor immediately. Such an important safety consideration, and I don't think enough people do it. The 70's nice and quiet, as you can hear. And one of the things I've noticed since fitting the Green Marine Lithium battery up front and taking like 70 pounds out of the front of the boat is how much quicker it comes up out of the hole and gets on the plane. It's really quite impressive. All right, here we go. And we're up on the plane. Look, it's not a lightning fast boat. I can push it up to about 28, 29 knots at 6,100 RPM, but mostly I cruise at 4,500 to 4,800 RPM, and I'm doing about 20 to 23 knots. Very, very economical at that. I get at least 3 kilometres to the litre out of it. And with the 55 litre built-in fuel tank, that gives me a range of well in excess of 150 kilometres. The other thing that's super important to me is having a quality trailer that's set up to allow me to easily drive the boat on and off, especially when I'm fishing alone. This is a game changer, and it simply means that I fish a lot more. So that's about it, a brief look at our Beastmaster Snubby boat. Like I said, it's a compromise like any other boat, but it's a compromise that suits Joe and myself and where we are in our fishing at this point in our lives, which is probably about 85% estuary work, 15% freshwater and 5% offshore. We pick our days to go offshore in this boat. It handles the sea really well, but we're still quite cautious, and we always err on the side of caution. If I was going to do a lot more offshore fishing, I'd probably have a bigger boat, and I might go for something with a forward cabin or whatever. But because I do the kinds of fishing that I do, this boat suits us really well, whether we're fly fishing, lure fishing, or bait fishing. We do them all out of this rig, and we really enjoy it. We've had it for 9 years, got no plans at the moment to move to anything else. If I do move to anything else in a few years' time, as I get a bit older, it'll probably be something even smaller and lighter that I can potter around the estuary in. But for now, this suits us really well. Oh, make sure that you check out those M&E tackle covers for your sounders. They're U-Butte, the link down below. And green marine lithium batteries. Seriously, if you've been umming and ahhing about going lithium, bite the bullet and do it, but do it right. And do it with an Australian company that fulfills all the safety regulations and goes beyond them. And the best one that I've found is green marine lithium. Well, that's about it from me for now. I might go and chuck a lure around for a while. And I'll catch you next time. Until then, tight lines. Oh, and check out these other 2 videos as well.